Welcome to Intuiface presentation. This video will introduce you to the incredibly expressive design possibilities of our Triggers and Actions feature. So what are triggers and actions? They are cause and effect. Triggers cause actions. The idea is not exactly new. We've had triggers and actions in our product for some time now. What's new is how extensive the list of triggers and actions has become. With over 100 new triggers and actions, this feature will enable you to add sophisticated behaviors and livelier, more reactive content than you ever thought possible. And as always, without requiring you to write a single line of code. Let's start with a simple example by placing a button into our current space. Buttons recognize both pressed and release states. We want this released trigger to unhide a video asset and then play its content. To do this, we have to add two actions: show the video and play the video. This video is already on the current space but is currently visible. To hide it, we simply uncheck its visible property in the Properties panel. Next, to configure our trigger action pair, click on it in the Triggers panel. Now select the video as the target for our actions. The first action opens the video at a specific position. Clicking on the Add an Action button then enables us to create a second action. This second action tells our target video to play. Let's continue with the idea of 3 interacting videos. At first, one of them is fully visible and the other 2 are minimized. When the first video ends, it causes the second video to open, play its content, and then minimize itself. Here the trigger occurs when the first video reaches its end and the 3 actions are setting the second video's visibility state to show, playing the second video, and minimizing the first video. By extending this logic, it's easy to see how the second video could interact with the third, and then the third with the first video, creating an endless video loop. Continuing with the video and button theme, we place a single video and a series of buttons in the current space. Each button triggers a set timeline action on the video so that it jumps to a specific moment in time. In addition, for the video itself, we add reached time triggers corresponding to each button-linked sequence. We are using this reached time trigger to pause video playback, resulting in the creation of a simple video navigator. Each asset and collection has its own set of triggers and actions. In the next example, we have a 3D model combined with a series of pictures. Every time a picture is touched, the trigger, the 3D model, will jump to a specific viewpoint, the corresponding action. These behaviors illustrate how you can configure any asset in a space to activate specific actions. It is the ideal way to display contextual information and adapt your content in a very reactive way. Also note that when an image is closed, the 3D model can be moved back to its default position, waiting for the user to touch another image. Actions are not limited to elements in the same presentation. In addition to local actions, remote actions are possible. Remote actions target elements in presentations separate from the one in which the trigger occurs. This means that multiple presentations on the same network can communicate and coordinate with one another. Let's go back to our initial example of a button opening and playing a video. This time, we will declare the action as remote. We now need to indicate the name of the targeted presentation and the computer it's running on. Then we indicate the type and name of the targeted asset and the action we want to execute, just as we would for a local action. With this information, your triggers can send action requests to remote presentations as if the target elements were in the same presentation. Here we are using 2 different displays on 2 different computers, each one running a presentation. Pressing the button in one presentation shows and plays the video in the other. It's as simple as that. Triggers and actions enable sophisticated synchronization between assets and collections. In this presentation, we have a carousel. When this carousel collection is advanced forwards or backwards, it updates a web browser asset and a flip slideshow collection located in a second presentation. Here, the trigger is Reached Index on the carousel, and the actions are Open URL for the web browser and Scroll to Asset for the flip slideshow collection. For any given item in the carousel collection, we can associate a URL for the web browser and an item in the flip slideshow collection. Using almost the same principles, a timeline in a presentation can be synchronized with the pages of a book. In this example, the timeline is automatically advanced to a specific period every time the page changes. Still using a timeline, we can update a map to show the geographical area where a specific historical event took place. See how easy it is to synchronize time and geographical information in your presentations, even when more than one presentation is involved? For this next demonstration, we are going to show off an amazing new capability that exists thanks to remote actions. It is a remote control. Intuiface Presentation comes with its own remote control, running both on the iOS-based iPad and iPhone, as well as on Android-based devices. To use the remote control, you will need to download and compile the source code. Complete instructions are found on our support site. We are currently validating the code for availability in the Apple App Store and in Google Play. Your remote control can detect and drive any presentation on the same network as your Wi-Fi connected device. Simply select a presentation to take control of it. The remote control provides all of the most frequently used buttons for a presentation, such as Previous and Next. Pressing a button instantly activates the corresponding action on the presentation. But that's not all. The remote control also comes with a trackpad mode. In this mode, you will see a snapshot of the presentation that you can manipulate with your fingers, just as if you were touching the actual screen displaying the presentation. This function even works if your presentation display is not interactive. Yes, your remote control gives you a way to turn any screen into an interactive display. With triggers and actions, Intuiface Presentation can transform boring digital signage into highly customizable, interactive experiences for retail or any other environment in which first contact is so important. For our first example, set up Microsoft Connect with your display. Use the Connect to detect when a visitor steps in front of the display and then catch his or her attention by triggering an action that unhides and plays a video. Use the second action to call a URL on an external web server to track and analyze how many visitors walk in front of the display every day. For our next example, consider that remote actions can be activated by any third-party application on the same network. Here we have programmed a very simple application that periodically activates actions on one or more presentations. Such actions can be the display of an image or video, modification of text, or any other action available in Intuiface Presentation. To function, these server applications only need to be able to call URLs. For help in the creation and verification of remote action URLs, use our Remote Actions Builder. Enter the IP address of the player on your network and then select the action you want to trigger. If this action applies to a specific asset, indicate the path to this asset. Finally, enter parameters for the action and press Send. Look for the results in the remote presentation to determine if your URL remote action syntax was properly formatted. If you have questions about anything you've seen here, don't hesitate to contact our support team at support.intuiface-presentation.com. On our website, you will also find all of the sample presentations demonstrated here, the Remote Control app, the Remote Actions Builder, and extensive documentation. Have fun!